Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Jewel Onuk and welcome to another episode of Enigma by Jewel. So guys, today we're actually going to talk about a crime story that everybody knows, almost everybody, I can't say everybody, almost everybody knows about. So I think like almost everybody knows this case, so I'm just going to like make it short. The way I've composed it, it has the basic information, the necessary information, but it's short, it's not long. Oh, that makes sense. I think it does. So let's get right into the story. So today we're actually going to talk about Bonin, who's also known as the Freeway Killer. So who is Bonin? Bonin, he was actually a twice paroled sex offender and he was also a truck driver. Bonin, as we all know, he was known to be American serial killer and he was charged of 22 murders, and he was also suspected to have killed 15 additional people, but obviously he wasn't charged of this. He's suspected to have killed more than 22 young boys during his lifetime. So let's go down into his whole story, how we all know him, what we know him for, and everything. So before we go down, we should know that, like I said earlier, Bonin was also known as the Freeway Killer, and this was because most of his victims were actually found and discarded along the freeway in Southern California. Bonin was born January 8, 1947, and he was a Capricorn. In case you don't know, I was born January 6th, 19 whatever. So he was born on January 8, 1947, and he was born in Wilmington in Connecticut. So he had 3 brothers and he was the middle child, and his dad's name was Robin Bonin while his mom's name was Alice Bonin. So both of his parents, they were alcoholics, and his dad was not only an alcoholic, but his dad was also a gambler and an abusive man. It was often normal for his parents to just abandon him and his brothers to go on their own in an extended period of time. So they had little to no parental supervision. So maybe times where the mom will feel guilty or stuff like that, she will send her children to go and stay with her own father, and her own father is a convicted child molester, and apparently he molested his own daughter. So I don't know how she felt so comfortable taking her children to go and live with her own father, knowing that her father has a history of sexually molesting children. In 1953, Alice, she actually placed her children, her sons, in an orphanage because she was trying to protect her children from her father. But it's just like you seeing fire, then you know fire is hot, and then you go to put your hand in fire and be like, oh my god, I'm on fire, it burnt my hand. Now you have to go to the doctor to take care of you. So literally she took her children to an orphanage in 1953 and she placed them because she was trying to protect them from her abusive father. But this orphanage was not like every normal orphanage we know. I don't know if that makes sense. This orphanage was like, it was a disciplinary ground, and the way they took care of children, they punished these children, they actually beat these children, they used submissive positions, like name it, like they tortured these children in other unimaginable ways. And Bonin, will freely talk about his childhood, talk about his life, but when it came to talking about his memories in the orphanage, he didn't really talk about it, but he like gave a little point. And Bonin actually stayed in the orphanage till he was 9. And literally when he was in this orphanage, first of all, let's start from the fact that Bonin, he said that he had sex. According to him, he said it was consensual sex, but the only reason why he would have this consensual sex was if they bound his hand to his back. So this would make him less afraid, which does not make sense because like before he was 9, it's scary. Before he was 9, he was already having sex, and obviously that's not a good sign. So when he was 9, I think his mom took him away from the orphanage, and in 1961 his dad, Robert, because like I said, his dad was a compulsive gambler, and you know when it comes to gambling, either you win or you lose, and most times when you lose, it's a very traumatic one. Like the loss is great. So due to his dad's gambling, they were faced to foreclose their house. Like their house was facing foreclosure, and like I said, they stayed in Connecticut, so decided to move to California, which I don't understand how you are broke and you move all the way from Connecticut to California. Is California not meant to be more expensive? So anyways, they moved to a neighborhood on Angel Street in Downey, and I don't know if this is necessary, but most sources said that they actually live close to the first McDonald's that actually offered drive-through in the whole country. So that's where they actually moved. So shortly after they moved, his dad actually passed away from liver failure. So I'm not surprised because he was an alcoholic. So if you take too much alcohol, it's just bound for you to have liver failure. But they say cirrhosis of the liver. I think cirrhosis of the liver is liver failure. I'm not sure. So while he was living in Downey, it was reported that Bonin had he had molested his brothers and he had molested children in the neighborhood, and he would lure them with the promise that he was going to give them alcohol. So another thing is that let's not forget that Williams Bonin was neglected by his mom, and his repulsive behavior just started at an early age. So soon after his high school graduation, Bonin became engaged, and his mom was the one that actually pushed this engagement because she thought that it was actually going to stop Bonin from his homosexuality. So his mom knew that he was homosexual, and because she tried to stop him from being homosexual, she literally pushed him to get married. But as we know, such marriage is not going to last because, like, number one, he didn't love her, he was not interested in her, it was basically arranged. I'm not saying that arranged marriages do not work, but like, he has a very different sexual orientation to what she actually does. She's straight, he's gay. Another reason why the marriage led to divorce was because Bonin, he could not curtail his appetite for young guys. So even when he was married, he was still after young boys. So Bonin actually joined the army, and he served 5 months in Vietnam as an aerial gunner with over 700 hours of patrol. And then he was given the Medal of Heroism because he literally risked his life to save the life of another airman. In 1968, he received an honorary discharge and he returned home to Downey, where he continued his crime. Is it just me, or most of these murderers, they always go to the army? Like, let's talk about the guy we studied last time, Jeffrey Dahmer. There's another guy, I've forgotten his name. How can I forget his name? He went to the army. He was 18. He married someone older than him. I've forgotten his name. He married someone older than him. He went to the army, and then he left the army because he felt depressed. He was so tall. He had a hammer toe. How have I forgotten his name? I've forgotten his name anyway. Most of these people that actually kill, like, why do they always go to the army? Well, not my business. So on November 17, 1968, Bonin, he was 21 years old at this time, and he committed his first known sexual assault on a young boy. Soon after, he went to assault 3 other young boys, and these boys, they were aged 12 to 18. So literally, I'm not going to mention names of people that are below 18 because these were children. Although sources, information, like they've named these boys, but I don't want to because it's already traumatic enough that this happened to kids, and naming them is going to be like kind of iffy. I don't know if I'm making sense. So literally, Bonin, what he actually did, like, he forcibly like bound his victims with their hands to their back, and he engaged in sodomy and torture, and this was later known to be his form of killing. In early 1969, Williams Bonin was arrested for luring a 16-year-old boy to his car and restraining him. So he was indicted of 5 counts of kidnapping, 1 count of oral opulation, 4 counts of sodomy, and 1 count of child molestation. So Bonin, he actually pleaded guilty to child molestation, and he was sentenced to the Atasidero State Hospital for the Criminal Insane. So while in this facility, Bonin, he actually underwent psychological examination, and these examinations, they were extensive, and they found out that he had an exceptional high IQ of 121, and they also diagnosed him of manic depression. In addition, they found out that his prefrontal cortex was actually damaged, and this actually reduces the ability for him to like hold back violent impulses. So literally, because his prefrontal complex was damaged, I think it causes, like, for example, now if he wants to kill someone, you know, like how the thought of murder may come into your mind, not my mind. You know how the thought of murder may come into your mind and you hold yourself back because you know that's a crime. He could not just help to kill. Like, he loved killing. Like, he actually said it, like, he loved killing. Killing gave him satisfaction. Hurting people gave him satisfaction. So they also did like physical examinations, and these physical examinations actually revealed that there was extensive scarring on his head and his buttocks. So later that year, the prison official, they said that Bonin was unsuitable for treatment because this guy was forcibly having sexual activities with other inmates. So literally he was raping other inmates, and the prison officials, they couldn't even help it. I don't know if you understand, like it had gotten too much. But them seeing all this that is going on, June of 11th in 1974, they actually determined that Bonin was no longer a risk to health and safety of other people. So they actually released him from prison. Ciao. You could not even control this guy in prison, and then all of a sudden he's no longer a risk to the society. Like, make it make sense, please. Like, somebody please make it make sense, because I didn't understand that part. I was like, child, like, really, are you really going to go there? But anyways, so let's not forget this guy was released on June 1974, and 3 months after, on September 8th, 1974, Bonin, he actually encountered a 14-year-old hitchhiker. This hitchhiker needed to go to his parents' house in Huntington Beach. So like he hitchhiked, and then Bonin was unfortunately the man that was driving the car. And then he got into this car, and then as they were driving, Bonin asked him if he was gay, and obviously he felt very uncomfortable about this sentence, about this question, and he asked Bonin to stop his car, but Bonin was like, nope. Bonin pulled out a gun and pointed it at him and drove him to a deserted area. What am I saying? Bonin drove him to this deserted area. He told the teen to undress. He beat this teen, and then he raped this teen. And after Bonin was done, he began to strangle this 14-year-old boy. And this boy was screaming and he was begging for his life. And Bonin, I think he like freaked out a little bit, and then he actually apologized. He stopped, he apologized, and then he drove this 14-year-old boy home, and then he told him, like eerily, he told him, we will meet again. He dropped this boy home, and the mom was not having it. So the mom called the Gardens Grove police, and when the mom called the Gardens Grove police, Bonin was charged with rape, and he was also charged with oral copulation of a minor, along with an attempted adoption of a 15-year-old boy that happened 2 days before he actually met this 14-year-old boy. So literally 2 days prior to when he had met this 14-year-old boy that he picked and took to a deserted area, he had actually had an encounter with a 15-year-old boy. Literally, he told this 15-year-old boy that he would give this 15-year-old boy $35 if this boy had attempted to have sex with him. And obviously, when the boy refused, he tried to hit his boy with his car. So in December of 1975, Bonin actually pleaded guilty to and was sentenced to serve between 1 to 15 years in prison. So Bonin, he was released 3 years after, on October 11th, 1978, and he moved into an apartment complex that was just 1 mile away from his mom's house. Bonin had a neighbor that he was close to, and this neighbor's name was Everest Fraser, who was just 43 years old. And he used to go to this neighbor's house because this neighbor used to throw parties for, and younger guys used to attend these parties. And like, I don't know why people didn't talk about it, like the elephant in the room, like you're 43 and you're throwing parties, and 18-year-old boys are actually coming to your parties, 21-year-old boys are coming to your parties, like they are frequently coming to your parties. Like, isn't that something like we should think about? Although they never said underage, but like obviously there'll be underage boys there, because like if a 43-year-old man is throwing a party, I think you should be throwing party for people in your age group. Do you understand? Not for young boys, like not for young boys. Like either he was doing like a little brothel or he was trying to kill somebody. He's giving me mal vibes right now. So Bonin, during one of his visits to Fraser's house, that's when he became friends with a guy named Venom Bott, who was 21-year-old, and Gregory Miley, who was 18 years old. And Gregory Miley was a native of Texas, and he had an IQ of 56. That is low. Bonin was a husky man. He was husky. He had dark hair and he had a mustache. And neighbors actually said that he was a drifter and he was ready employed, but he always had like teens coming in and out of his house. According to New York Times, Bonin actually also like made friends with the homosexual community in West Hollywood. so he had friends there. And many of the young men there, they would actually describe him as having a hypnotic personality that actually allowed Bonin to dominate them, I think during sex too. So Bonin, on a regular day, he would frequently throw neighborhoods and highways in his van, and he did this because he was looking for any young hitchhiker or male prostitutes that would be his next victim. So his neighbors also said that they can remember like blood curdling screams coming from his apartment, but like they never ever called the police. And I'm like, I don't understand. I don't understand. Like, you're living in an apartment complex and you hear noise, you hear voices coming out from this house every time. Even if it's domestic abuse or domestic violence, like, you should call the police. Like, I don't understand. Like, what if it was your child? Didn't you imagine, like, what if it's my child that is happening? This is something similar to Jeffrey Dahmer, like a little bit like similar to Jeffrey Dahmer, because I did Jeffrey Dahmer. I think that's the first video on this channel. Jeffrey Dahmer, he would invite young people to his house and then he will kill them. But his own people didn't hear the noise. Instead, they perceived, like, they knew his house was smelling. Like, it was literally bad because like there were dead bodies in his house. But this one, they are seeing young people entering his house, and not only are they entering his house, they are hearing screams. I don't know why I know, yeah, you're not meant to meddle into people's business, but like, you can call the police anonymously. Hope I'm making sense. I think I am. Yes, I know I am. But Bonin, he would actually empower his victims, and then he would bound their hands together using wire cords and handcuffs. They were extensively commonly beaten, like around their head, their neck, and their genitals. Imagine somebody beating your genital as a man. Kicking their genitals alone is painful, but imagine someone brutally beating your genitals. One victim actually had his throat slashed, and this was while Bonin attempted to, remove his genitals. Bonin, like, he had insatiable appetite for death. Like, he loved killing people, and till today, like, the police are still baffled. Like, why would someone be so satisfied in killing somebody? Why would someone be so satisfied in killing people? But that's the kind of person that Bonin was. Like, he had this insatiable desire just to kill people. So one of Bonin's victims was forced to drink chloral hydrate, and because of this, he had like burns in his mouth, his chin, his chest, and 3 other victims, they actually had ice picks in their ears. There's another guy that actually died of shock because this idiot called William Bonin, he tried putting a stick into his rectum. So because of that, he actually died of shock, which obviously nobody has ever thought that stick will ever enter their rectum. So someone trying to put this into your rectum forcibly, obviously, the guy didn't even die from that. He actually died from the shock of it even happening. Bonin actually never ever killed alone, unlike other serial killers who prefer doing things alone because they didn't want to get ratted out. Bonin never killed alone. Ted Bundy, he loved doing his things alone. The Night Stalker did his stuff alone. But the Freeway Killer, nope, he had accomplices. He had people that worked with him. What these accomplices would do, these accomplices would actually help Bonin to like subdue his victims, and they would later dispose of the bodies. So let's just say that Bonin actually loved to show off. He loved showing off when he raped and murdered his victims. So it was like a thing of pride. Like, he would be like, yeah, I did that. I know that's right. So according to Los Angeles Times, Los Angeles Deputy Attorney Sterling Norris, he actually convicted Bonin of 10 murders, and he said that Bonin actually, he often always dared his helpers that they should join in the frenzy. Gregory Miley, I don't know if you guys remember Gregory Miley. So Gregory Miley was a guy with the 56 IQ. So Gregory Miley, who was 18 when he met Bonin, he was accused of murdering a 12-year-old boy from Garden Grove and a 14-year-old boy from Bell's Gardens. And both of these 2 boys were actually adopted on the same day in February in 1980. So according to Miley said that Bonin asked him, can you do it? And maybe he said no, and then Bonin was like, see, let me show you how to do this. He choked him with a shirt, and then he used a jack to twist the shirt to make sure like it was so tight, and This 14-year-old boy was actually found nude in an alley in Los Angeles. He lost the killing. He told the Los Angeles Times in 1996 that he was so delighted in talking about it. So like even when he was apprehended, he didn't seem to have any form of regret, any form of remorse. So James Monroe was 19 by the time he met Bonin, and he was one of his recruiters. So James Monroe was chased out of his parents' house, his family house in Michigan, and then he went to California. He was on the streets of Hollywood. That's where he used to stay. Actually, he went there to take a break. So he went there to take a break on the streets of Hollywood, and then that's where he met Bonin, and then he explained his whole situation to Bonin, and Bonin was like, okay, you know what, I'm going to give you a place to stay, I'm going to give you shelter, I'm going to give you where to stay, but and I'm also going to give you a job. So Bonin took him to his mother's house with his brother, and that's where he stayed. So maybe let's say like during the night he would stay in Bonin's place, and then during the daytime, guess what, they will go out and hunt for victims. Another person that Bonin actually recruited was Bert. I don't remember Bert, one of the guys that he actually met in his neighbor's house. So Bert was 22 years old by this time, and Bert was a factory worker, and he was also an active participant in the murder. So when it came to Bert was a part-time magician, and he actually rented out his services at parties, and he also claimed to be an active occultist, and he actually did sleep in a coffin. So these people had something, one thing or the other going on with them. 4 days after Bonin had met James Monroe, Bonin naturally insisted that he wanted the two of them to go and pick up a hitchhiker and sexually assault this hitchhiker and then also kill this hitchhiker. Like, this was something that was planned. I'm laughing because it's so uncomfortable. It's so uncomfortable to actually think about this. Like, how do you come up with a conversation like this? How? So literally, James Monroe actually told the authorities that he actually thought that it was just bull, like it was bullshit. He thought that he wasn't serious, but I don't believe that anyway. On June 2nd, 1980, the two of them, they went in Bonin's Ford van. So he had this blue Ford van. He went in this blue Ford van, and then they picked up an 18-year-old hitchhiker, and they took him to his mom's house. So before I go further, James Monroe said that he was not a willing participant, which we all know is bullshit. So he said he was not a willing participant, that he was coerced to do that. But Bonin went ahead and was like, no, this guy literally, he was willing, but and I would believe Bonin because Bonin was someone who had no remorse. He didn't even care. So I don't think he would want to lie about something like that, because like at this point he knew his life was over. So like, what was the use of him lying? Yeah, so that's how I believe Bonin. Monroe told the authorities that he was actually watching TV in the living room while Bonin took the teen to his mother's room, and then that's where he tied this teen up, and then he began sexually assaulting the teen. And Bonin then called Monroe into the bedroom, and then like when he went, he was like that was the point that he knew that, oh my god, oh shit, like this is actually real. So Bonin now went to go and get him water, and he told Bonin, he was like, no, please do not do this. And Bonin was like, it's too late, there's nothing that you can do now that is actually going to stop me from doing what I want to do. So right before the teen was murdered, Monroe actually recalls Bonin screaming, shut up, you're going to die. And then Monroe told the Los Angeles Times that Wells actually really pleaded for his life. But Bonin was like, see, like whatever you do, whatever you say is not going to happen, because I'm going to kill you today. Like I said, Bonin loved to kill. He had this insatiable satisfaction knowing that he has taken someone's life that he did not give to the person. He had the balls and the effrontery to take somebody's life as he liked. So Monroe said that he watched as Bonin actually strangled this young teen's neck with a t-shirt, and then they carried the boy's body in a cardboard box to the van, and then they dumped it behind a gas station in Huntington Beach. But let me break you people's hearts. So obviously, before now, crime has been happening. There've been criminal activities that have actually been happening, and obviously they started to suspect Bonin. But you know what was most heartbreaking? Like the night where Bonin and James Monroe went to fetch this 18-year-old teenager, his house was under surveillance. And the annoying thing was, like, this was the first night. This was the first night. If said, okay, maybe later during the week they got like weeks down, they had gotten tired. This was literally the first night that they had decided to, like, okay, let's watch this guy, let's watch his movement. This was literally the first night, and the first night they decide to watch this guy. Like, they did not see this whole thing going on. They didn't see this whole thing going on. So ironically, police, they were actually watching his residence that night. Like I said, they had received this information that this guy is the Freeway Killer. And just the first night, just the first night, he killed somebody. James Monroe, the next day, he actually stole Bonin's van and then he drove to Michigan. According to him, it was like he thought he was going to be next. So Bonin was caught with a teen hitchhiker in his van, and actually they caught him in the act of sexually assaulting this teen hitchhiker. So they found a nylon cord in his van, they found a tire iron, and then they found 3 knives in the van. So both Miley and Monroe, they actually testified against Bonin during their trials so that they will receive like lighter sentences. And Monroe was sentenced to 15 years of life imprisonment, and they denied him parole 9 times. And the parents of the 18-year-old guy that was sexually assaulted, they actually contested to the release of his parole. Venom Burt, remember Burt Venom Burt? He was actually also accused of helping Bonin in killing at least 6 people, and he was sentenced to prison, and he was actually found dead, and they found a towel wrapped around his neck. So obviously they suspected that he killed himself, so his cause of death was ruled as suicide. But I don't think he killed himself. I think somebody killed him. That's what, I don't know. That's what my spirit is saying, that somebody killed him. I don't think he killed himself. Do you think he killed himself? I don't think he actually killed himself. That reminds me, I have a question for you guys at the end of this whole story. And I don't know if we are going to watch this, but I just hope that whoever watches it, like, just try your best to just answer it in the comment section. Please answer the question. Thank you. So guys, let me just break your heart a little bit. This idiot called Williams Bonin, he actually pleaded not guilty to the charges of murder. How are you gonna plead not guilty to the charges of murder? Like, you literally killed people. You boasted about killing people, and then all of a sudden you're pleading not guilty. During the trial, the prosecutor Norris, that's the deputy attorney, he actually called Bonin's van, his Ford van, the death van. So this was the van he used in trolling Los Angeles and the surrounding cities, searching for his victims, searching for the next person he was going to kill. So as soon as the hitchhiker got into the van, the prosecutor said he was dead. This van is Ford, and I don't know if Ford still sold that van after that. If I was Ford company, I would stop producing that car. Like, as I did, I know now it should not be available, but like then, I think I'll stop, because like already I'll be, anytime I see that van, you won't even want to buy the van, because obviously people may not want to enter your van, because first thing that will come into their mind is that, oh, Williams Bonin. So according to Norris, that's the deputy attorney, he was like, we will show you that he enjoyed this killing. Not only did he enjoy it and plan to enjoy it, he had an insatiable appetite, not only for sodomy, but also for the killings. So some of the parents of this victim, they were actually present in the courtroom, and in some cases they were actually asked to identify their son's photograph. So they actually suffered through the color photographs of their child. Imagine going to identify your dead child you've been looking for so many years, or maybe child that you found dead, and like you're trying to find out who the killer is, and then you're sourcing through all these pictures, and then like you're looking for your child. There was also a 13-year-old boy that was also among these people, and this boy was stabbed 70 times. 70 freaking times. He was a homicide detective. His name was David Kushner, and it was like, this is the type of injury that is inflicted in a frenzy, and like you need to have effort to like stab somebody 70 freaking times. So this homicide detective, He said that he can only liken this to a rapid dog, like a rapid dog that has gone mad and has no control over himself. So he just ends up biting. He can't just stop biting. So the graphic images and the details of the murder, they were actually seared into the mind and the hearts of the victim's parents. So on February 23rd, 1996, your little girl was just 1 month old. My parents were still enjoying my wonderful existence. Now they don't care. On February 23rd, 1996, just before midnight, the public and the family of the victims, they actually organized outside of San Quentin prison. Some were there, some were supporting the death penalty, while others were actually opposing the death penalty. If you know me personally, I do not agree with the death penalty because I think you should suffer in prison, like suffer in not only prison, you can make friends in prison, solitary confinement. If you can be there for 12 years or for the rest of your life, you will run mad. You will run mad. That is called slow death, slow poison. Like that is what, do you understand? Solitary confinement, just you alone. Do you understand? I don't believe in killing because you would ask God to forgive you, all those things, and God is so merciful, He's going to forgive you. So some people, they were supporting the death penalty while others were opposing the death penalty. So opponents and supporters, they actually engaged in angry demonstrations and they became confrontational as the years passed, or like as the hours passed. So people continued streaming into the area and the crowds, they actually grew. Some people played guitars while some people actually sang, while others carried candles. The mother of a 15-year-old boy that was actually murdered by Williams Bonin, she actually said that she couldn't wait to see him take his last breath. So this 15-year-old boy was last seen waiting for a bus so that he would go to work. Actually, apparently he worked in a fast food restaurant, so he was making his way to work. That was the last time they saw him. And the next thing they did, they found his body on March 22nd, 1980, and they found his body alongside that of a 14-year-old boy in Huntington Beach. So obviously, everybody, they were after these people, everybody was after them, everybody wanted to see them, and obviously security had to be tight. So in order for these people to beef up security, they actually locked these prisoners up. So they locked these prisoners up in their cell and they actually cancelled recreation because like people were mad, people were angry, people wanted them killed. I wouldn't be surprised like if, because obviously no prison they have like recreational activities. So like I wouldn't be surprised like if these people were released to do recreation, I won't have been surprised if the parents of these victims and people that actually came had stormed into the whole yard and just like killed William Bonin with their hands. I won't have been surprised. So because of this, they were like, you know what, you guys are going to cancel recreational activities. So Bonin, he was so stupid, he made appeals while he was in prison. Like, how dare you? How dare you? How dare you? You killed people, like you enjoyed killing people, and now you're being caught, you're making appeals. How dare, like the nerve. So after exhausting all his appeals, because he's so stupid like that to be appealing, after exhausting all his appeals, Bonin, he was actually taken from his holding cell shortly after midnight, and he walked 13 steps to California's execution chamber. And this was where he received an injection of sodium pentothal, pancuronium bromide, and potassium chloride. So Bonin's last meal, was pepperoni pizzas, 3 pints of ice cream, and 3 6-packs of Coca-Cola. And he was permitted to actually watch the TV show Jeopardy. So his last words, it actually seemed to eerily parallel his own childhood and the uncontrollable evil within his childhood. So his last words was, I feel the death penalty is not an answer to the problems at hand. That I feel it sends the wrong message to the youth of the country. Young people act as they see other people acting instead of as people tell them to act. And I would suggest that when a person has a thought of doing anything serious against the law, that before they should go to a quiet place and think about it seriously. 17 years after Bonin was arrested, Bonin was declared dead at 12:13 a.m. So literally, this his last statement. Like, I don't understand it. Like, I understand. I have an idea. I think I have an idea of what he's trying to say. So like, he's saying that people act not based on what they're not based on what they are taught, but based on what they've seen adults do, and that's part of that is actually true. Like, look at his parents. Okay, look at his parents. His granddad was a child molester, and I'm very sure his granddad molested him, although it was not said. But like, not like I'm sure, I was not there, but like, I suspect that his granddad actually molested him because his mom took him to the orphanage to, protect her sons from her dad. So obviously something must have happened for her to do that. He was sexually molested while he was a little child. He was not even up to 9 years. He was sexually molested, and he said he was out of consent. That was not out of consent, baby boy. That was not out of consent, because you're in 9 years. You can't even make your own meal. So how would you consent to people having sex with you? They actually bound his hands to his back, and I think this is where he got the habit of bounding his victims after when he captures them, and then sexually assaulting his victims. He wasn't even an orphan, and he was in an orphanage baby home. Do you understand? My question is, and I hope you guys answer, do you think his act was based on his childhood, how he grew? I'm not making an excuse for him. I can't make an excuse, because like, I've been through a lot of my childhood, but I don't think I've used it to be wicked to people. Do you understand? Or use it to commit any source of crime. So, not like I don't think, I have not used it to commit any source of crime, and I'm not going to condone the fact that, oh yes, because he's been through this as a child, that's an excuse for him to, although it can trigger it. That's why, like, people underestimate how good it is for you to seek mental support, mental health support. People underestimate that a lot. And looking after your mental health is not selfish, it's not a selfish thing, but people actually underestimate it. So like, my question is, are you all listening? My question is this: do you think his act was based on how he was treated as a child? Personally, I think it is, but it's actually also not an excuse. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section. And yeah, that's literally it. His last words, he was like, before you commit any crime, go and think about it. And yes, people just act, they don't think. And when you think about it, that hope is led into your heart that you should not commit that crime, because taking another person's life can never ever be the answer to anything in this life. Be careful. Like, you're angry, control your emotions. Like, if you're angry, leave the situation, leave the place. Do you understand? So yeah, this is it. This is the whole story. I hope you guys enjoyed this. This was actually very fun to make. If you actually enjoyed the story, please give this video a thumbs up so that I hope my channel grows, since I'm starting from the scratch. And share this with your friends if you actually enjoyed this video. And I think I actually prefer, I don't know, today doing makeup and doing this was so hard. I had to like scrap the whole thing and just focus on telling the whole story. So let me know if you guys enjoyed this and do you like my look, my makeup look. I think I like it from the camera. Thank you guys so much for watching this. Subscribe to my channel if you're not yet subscribed to my channel, and see you guys next week. Thank you guys so much, and I really do appreciate you guys. Bye.